Welcome to another episode of Morning Mojo with me, your host, Shane Solomon. I hope you're having the most amazing day so far. I'm delighted to have on the sofa with me today someone I haven't seen for a while, but she's here with me now, Heather Venables. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Shane. It's really lovely to see you after so many years.
Like I said, it has been a while.
It has.
And a connection with the wonderful school that is Polter in St. Austell.
Exactly.
I went there as a student many years ago now, but I saw you there when I, returned and did some things there. Now, I like to get straight into the content because people's time is so valuable. We're going to be talking today about that change of, you're hitting 40s and changing direction from something that you knew so well, which is teaching, but then going into something totally different and going self-employed and being completely in control of your own destiny. So let's start there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Changing tact at 40.
Yeah, that was a surprise and a bit scary, but it was something that I am so glad that I did. So I am still teaching a little bit as a supply teacher while I'm building the business, but I had quite a journey as a teacher and decided after a while that I was feeling really burnt out. I was really tired. I was really stressed. Then I had an incident in the school that made me think, okay, it's time that I need to make a change. So I changed tacks. I started working at one of the local colleges as an outreach officer. And while I was there, I was like, no, I just need to get out of education. So I started taking loads of different mini courses to try and figure out what I wanted to do. And on a whim, I took a weekend in Exmouth on an introduction to massage for friends and family. And I absolutely fell in love. And I thought, this is what I need to do. And I just completely changed my life overnight. Started a business with only £100. And now it's grown to the point where I have my own premises. I'm renting a room at Pool Innovation Centre, a clinic, and I have 2 therapists working with me, and it's just growing from strength to strength. So hands down, the best decision I've ever made.
Right, there's so many things I want to talk about here, but let's talk about transferable skills first of all. So how long have you been a teacher, and when did you enter that profession? What age were you then?
So I started as a teacher when I was 21. So I was a baby, really, when you look back on it.
You're one of those teachers who would have, really tried to get away with murder with.
Yeah, and I think they actually did because I think I was so close in age to the students back then that they thought I was one. But I started when I was 21 and I loved teaching. It was what I had trained to do. I'd gone to university. I'd worked really hard to do that. And I thought that was going to be my forever career. 21 years later, and I'm just doing a bit of supply teaching every now and then, but mainly focusing on my clinic, the Red Ruth Massage and Movement Clinic. And for a long time, I thought that was the only thing I could do. You kind of get into this headspace where you're pigeonholed,
Yeah.
where you think, oh, this is what I do, this is what I'm comfortable with, what else could I possibly do? And then, a lot of the other teachers that I speak to now, they're like, well, what about my pension? What about sick pay? My pay is my salary. My whole life is connected to this job. How could I possibly make a change and leave? So it seems like it's a really daunting thing. And also you think, well, my skills, well, I know how to deal with children. I can stand in front of a classroom and teach all day long, but what could I do anything else? And so I think in many ways, and I'm sure it's not just teachers who feel that way. I think a lot of people feel that way. I've been an accountant, I've been a doctor, I've been a nurse, I've done this, I've done that. This is all I've ever known. How do I make a change? How could I do anything else? And yet we learn all sorts of skills through our careers that can be transferred to anything. You think about dealing with children. Well, I guarantee that I can do customer service, because if you're trying to sell English to a group of kids who don't want to read and write, and you can pull them through, then you know how to deal with people. You learn to deal with people of different ages. You learn data management, you learn time management, you learn project management, you learn all of those skills that you don't even realize you have, and you can apply them to something else.
But I mean, running a business,
it's hard.
It is hard work. I've done it for a long time, and I'm still trying to master it. I'll be totally honest. And through meeting people and the networking side of things, you learn. And in failing, we learn too. I've made some absolute clangers in my career, in my business career, and I'm sure I'm going to make a few more yet until my time's up. But
I think we all do.
to
be fair.
But I always think, do you know what? It is all but a game, really, and you've just got to go for it and believe, right? And when we exchanged an email to before today, we were talking about that and how much has your belief in yourself played a part in this transition?
Oh, it's massive. It's massive. You have to take a leap of faith when you start any business, because you have to trust that you can do this. But, we often talk about self efficacy in this industry that I'm in now, but also with what we do with our clients. And self efficacy is that belief that you have the ability to have that control, that you can move things forward and reach your goals, that you internally have the knowledge, the skills, and the ability to move it forward. And I think if you haven't built that in yourself, you'll never have the confidence to take that next step.
Mhm.
But that belief that I have the ability to control things, that I can make things happen, that I can, build a future for myself is what allowed me to take that leap of faith and to put things in action. Because, like you said, running a business is hard, and every day is a day to learn something new. We all make mistakes. I think sometimes you think, oh my days, that's such a huge decision to make. You almost stop yourself out of
Mhm.
fear of
Mhm.
making a mistake, but actually you just have to go, right, I'm going to do it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, great, we'll figure out another way. And just keep moving yourself forward. And I think it was that belief in myself was something that had grown, um, over the years. And I don't think I realized that I even had it when I was teaching. It was only after I left teaching that I realized that I have that confidence in myself to make something
And the
amazing.
drive, and I want to talk about motivation and where do you get
Mhm.
your fuel for motivation from?
Do you know, it's a really interesting thing because I was talking to my mom about this the other day, and my aunt Penny, because we are very driven women in our family, and I think it's something that was put in me from a very young age. My grandmother was the most amazing person. She left secondary school when she was 13. She never got a high school diploma. And yet, by the time she finished her career, she was the head of finance in the company where she worked. She had a team underneath her. And I remember, as a little girl sitting next to her on the sofa with a TV tray in front of me, like you do in America, as she would have spreadsheets, and I'd be helping her to alphabetize her spreadsheets, and she'd give me a little calculator, and I'd be adding things up. So even from a little age, and very, very young age, that drive and that ambition to work and to do something that had meaning was instilled in me, and that's never left. And I think that's what's driving me still today. It's something internal that I just have this need to do something amazing, to help other people, to build, to work, to create something that has lasting value.
No, that's great. And talking about helping people, I can't think of a better way than through
Well,
massage, right?
exactly.
Because there's so many benefits. And in a world now where everything is 100 miles an hour, people talk about mental health, they talk about all this stuff. There's a lot of pressures going on in people's
Oh,
lives.
yeah, definitely.
And massage, I'm a big fan of it myself. I must admit, before I had my very first massage, I was always the uneasy guy that thought, oh, someone's going to touch me and oh, it's going to be really
Yeah,
weird.
people think
You
that.
know,
Yeah.
but once, honestly, there's nothing, it's great. It's such a great thing. And I've been to many places and experienced lovely massages from like local hotels through to cruise ships. And, I remember having a massage overlooking the sea, and I'm like, this is just great.
It's bliss.
But the
Yeah.
benefits of making people feel good is just huge.
Yeah, it's massive, and I think it's more than what people realize. And I think even during the lockdowns during COVID, when we weren't able to work, the difference it made in people's mental health, not being physically touched by another human being, was really profound. It's just this week, The Guardian has actually published a paper. Referenced a paper about
Mm.
the impact of human touch and how it can actually help lower anxiety and depression. And it's really interesting because there's been some research into it and saying that actually massage is equivalent to having talking therapy for people who have anxiety and depression. It can have the same effect on you mentally and physically as going to see a counselor. Well, that's huge and just shows the power of human touch. But,
Mm.
we can, through massage, it's not just about the touch and touching the person. It's also the conversations that we have around that.
Mm.
And a lot of what we do in our clinic is talk to people about their whole life. We talk about their work, their stress, their families, what's going on with them mentally as well as physically. And one of my clients just recently said to me he feels like he's getting a free counseling session every time he comes in,
Mm, mm.
because he's able to tell me all the things that are on his mind and unburden himself. And that's a really important part of what we do as soft tissue therapists and massage therapists, and what we do in our clinic, because we're looking at that whole person to make sure that they feel well in themselves. When they leave that room, we want them to feel refreshed mentally and physically, and that's
Mm.
exactly what we do. And that is an absolute pure joy to be able to help someone in that way.
Because at the end of the day, my understanding of our existence here is that we are all energy.
Mm.
And that energy just needs to be stimulated, and through massage, I absolutely love it. I can't When I found that he was coming out on the show, I'm thinking this is great, because one, I need to book myself in next time I'm
Oh,
down there,
yeah,
and my partner
absolutely.
Helen Deova, she needs it more than anyone. She works in care, so her body is constantly up against the elements of
Yeah,
lifting
of
and
course.
a lot of pressure and strain. But so do you have any kind of mentors? I mean, you've mentioned your grandmother there. Apart from those early memories of being inspired, do you have anyone that you've kind of followed, whether in real life, online, or anything like that, that's kind of led you a little
Yeah.
bit?
Yeah, definitely. So I was really fortunate in the school that I chose. So I went to the School of Soft Tissue Therapy in Exmouth, and Anna Maria Mazzieri is the most amazing woman you'll ever meet. She's incredible. She has so much energy. She was the director of our course, and she started mentoring me from very early on. And through her, I've been able to meet some incredible people within the industry, the leaders of the industry. So people like Claire Minchell, who runs Get Back to Support, and she does all this research into sport and rehabilitation, and Mike James, who's the endurance physio. He's based in Wales, and he's an amazing person to speak to. Like, when it comes to dealing with athletes, he's always my go-to if I'm not sure what to do. Recently, I've been working with Mike Grice, who runs the Movement Therapy Education. He's an osteopath based up in Birmingham. And through him, we've now started offering the sports massage diploma. So I'm actually using those teaching skills down here in Cornwall to teach sports massage. But, like, I know that all of these people are there to support me and to help me, but also equally I can support them. And there is this amazing community of clinicians and therapists in this industry that we all look after each other. So even though you think, oh, I'm going to go and be self employed as a massage therapist, I'm all by myself, you're never alone, because there's this huge community behind you, rooting for you, helping you. And like I could go on and on about the names of people that I've worked with, but I love the fact that I can, you know, ring up Mike and say, Mike, I'm struggling with this. What do I do? Or I can say to Anna Maria, where's that research paper on this? Can you help me gain some further information? And then just outside of that industry, you start to meet other people here in Cornwall. So like, I've met Brock and we've spoken on quite a few occasions, and he's been super helpful. And, Haley at the Pool Innovation Center where I'm actually based now, and and other people. I like to use other local businesses to help support our business as well, and
Hmm.
that's a massive thing. Um, but then, you look at nationally, I use HMDG Limited, which is the leading MSK marketing agency to help develop it. And Michael, who's the director of that, is amazing. I just had a conversation with him yesterday. Like, when do you ever get to speak to the director of a big national company, and actually an international company? You don't, but they're there, and that's what I appreciate about this. You think you're going into business by yourself, but you're not. You're not. There's a whole huge amount of support there.
There is, and certainly mentioned Brock. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Brock and his work, and he's definitely one of the most nicest humans that I've ever met.
He's really
And
sweet.
he's so
Yeah.
genuine. He really is. And money is not his motivator. Success is, and helping other people is. and he gives so much. And there's so many people like Brock out there,
Hmm.
and it's so important that we network. And, and, and and talking about networking side of things, your thoughts on that? Because it can be intimidating, right, when you go to a networking event for the first time.
Yeah, it definitely was. And I remember my first networking event. The first time I stood up to introduce myself, I was more nervous than standing in front of a whole assembly of students.
I know,
Do you
right?
know, like,
I know.
why? Why? These are adults. They're there to listen and they want to support you.
Yeah.
But I think it's because, coming from the background that I did as a teacher, you go into a school, you start working in a school, you don't necessarily network, you don't learn that side of things. But actually, networking is so important when you're growing a business. Even if those people don't come to your business to have your services, they'll go, "Oh, do you know, I know a lady who does da 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 da," and then they send you other people. But then you start to become friends with people in the business community, and you have other
Mhm.
people around you that you can support. And you meet the most interesting people at these networking events. So it is worth taking the time to meet other people. Um, Not just for the benefit of the business, but also for your own mental health, I think, as a
Mhm.
business owner. And
Mhm.
also just the fact that you can then go and speak to them and say, okay, well, this is something that's going on. Have you ever dealt with this? How do you deal with this? What have you done with that? And you learn and you grow from each other. So it really is a massive benefit. And you see the same people over and over again, which is great actually, because then it's like, oh, well, how are your kids and how was your holiday? And you feel like you're part of a team then, as opposed to being on your own.
Yeah, and I say it over and over and over again, and that is people buy from people. So
Mm,
you cannot go to a networking event and expect to sell your products or services straight off the bat.
no.
You have to build those relationships, those friendships. I have a great saying that I picked up off a chap many years ago, an American actually, and he said, "People over profits."
Mm,
He said, "Look after the people, profits will come." But you've got to be genuine and look after people. And I think that is what I love most about networking. And then when you do walk in the room, it's like, "Hi, how's it going?" And it's like, and you just pick up where you left off last time.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, you know, especially if you've gone from a point where you've worked as part of a team to all of a sudden working for yourself, you do miss having the other colleagues around you. And networking gives you that sense of being part of a team and
Mm.
having people there to support you. It makes a massive difference to your business long term, but in the short term, just to feel like you have someone else there and you're not alone, and
Mhm.
that's huge.
Now, success to people, everyone is different.
Mm.
What does success look like to you? What does it mean to be successful? What does that look like in
That's
Heather's world?
that's a really good question. I think for me, success is having a positive impact, and giving back to the community in some way. It's not necessarily the profit. Although I do have to pay my bills, so that
Of
is
course.
important. Do need to keep a roof over the head, but it's more about the impact that we have on other people and how we can help people to grow in themselves. And to me, if I can do a job that helps someone else, then that is success for me. And there are so many clients and so many stories that I could tell you about the impact that we've had on other people, that it just is what spurs me to get up every morning, to carry on, to push myself to grow what I've started, um, because I know that we're having a positive impact on every single person who comes through that door.
I like that. I like that. So then here's the question. For those people watching and listening to this podcast now, what can they do today to make sure that they can be successful also?
I think they need to make sure that they give themselves time, for themselves. So one of the things that we often neglect as adults is our own health and well-being. You know, um, we get busy with our kids, our family, our jobs. Trying to make dinner, run around like a crazy person, like all adults do. Once we have responsibilities, but just make sure that you take time for yourself. Give yourself 5 minutes. Go for a walk. Have that extra cup of coffee. Do a little journaling. Do a bit of reading, but give yourself a moment to be yourself and to reflect on what's important to you. And then you'll really be able to help yourself feel better as a human being. And that will help you to be successful long term.
Well, what a great way to wrap up this podcast because I'm looking at the time and I'm literally close to our 20-minute. And I knew this would go by really quick
Oh, of
today.
course.
Have you enjoyed it?
Absolutely.
Now, there is literally about 60 seconds left. Now, is there anything, and this is a great time to mention your kind of social handles, things like that, that you would like to mention in this podcast that I've not already prompted you for, or anything at all? That this is your
Oh.
closing 60
Oh, no, no,
seconds.
no
No
pressure then.
pressure.
No pressure. No, I would just say, just come and have a chat with us. We're a Red Roof Massage and Movement Clinic on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. It's at Red Roof Massage. Come and have a chat to us. Even if you don't come in for a treatment, just come and have a word. If you're thinking about starting up a business, if you're thinking about making a change in a career, come and chat with me because I'd love to speak to you, and then we can help you where we can.
Well, I'm looking forward to popping in, and I will pop in.
Definitely.
And my kind of humble opinion, I think if you can start allocating in your working month time to have at least one therapy session a month, whatever you need to do to make that happen, whether, I mean, just out of interest, on roughly ballpark an hourly fee for your services on average, what would we
Yeah.
look about? £80, £60?
No, it's only £50
50
to come in
pounds,
for
right?
us.
Okay. So I wanted to get that price. So if it's cleaning 5 cars for £10 a car to get you that extra £50 so you can go and treat yourself to get this treatment, do it. Whatever you need to do, make that time for yourself, like Heather said. Well, look, as always, I'd like to say a massive thank you to Jay Kennett, who's been producing this podcast for us today. And as always, I hope you have the most amazing remainder of your day. And I will see you in the next episode. For myself and Heather, it's goodbye for now.